In the opulent halls of Langley Preparatory School, a quiet tension crackles as Robert Langley, the elusive billionaire, strides into the assembly unannounced. His piercing gaze sweeps across the room, pausing pointedly on Mr. Henry Mason, whose polished confidence now teeters on the brink of collapse. The air thickens as Robert reveals a truth that shatters the illusions of wealth and hierarchy, turning every judgment and pretense inside out. Whispers ripple through the crowd. What has Robert unearthed? The revelation is about to demand a reckoning, but what transpires next will shock even those who thought they'd seen everything. But first, let's go back to the beginning. The grand hallways of Langley Preparatory School echoed with the faint sound of polished shoes on Italian marble floors, accompanied by the hushed whispers of students adorned in tailored uniforms. The institution was not merely a school, but an emblem of social supremacy, cultivated meticulously under the vigilant eye of Mr. Henry Mason, the head teacher. Widely regarded for his impeccable standards, Mr. Mason ruled with an air of superiority that bordered on arrogance, ensuring that only those worthy of Langley's elite reputation graced its corridors. On a seemingly ordinary morning, the rhythm of Langley's well-oiled routine was interrupted by the presence of Sarah, a woman whose attire starkly contrasted with the glossy veneer of her surroundings. Her simple cotton dress and scuffed shoes stood out amidst the spectrum of designer labels, drawing curious glances from staff and students alike. Sarah had come to visit her son, Matthew, a bright boy whose gentle demeanor was well known among his peers. Her presence, however, was like a ripple in the still waters of the school's ordered existence, causing subtle waves of discomfort to pulse through the upper echelons of its community. Mr. Mason, stationed near the entrance like a sentinel, observed Sarah's arrival with a skeptical eye. His mind, trained to assess and categorize by appearance, immediately dismissed her as an outsider. With a crispness that belied his otherwise genteel mien, he strode forward, his leather shoes creating sharp staccato notes on the floor, and intercepted Sarah with a look of thinly veiled disdain. "I'm afraid visitors are not permitted during school hours," Mr. Mason declared, his voice ringing with the practiced authority that had been honed over years of enforcing Langley's high standards. The underlying implication was clear. The likes of her were not welcome. Sarah met his gaze with a serene composure that only deepened his irritation. "I understand your policy, Mr. Mason," she replied politely, her voice steady, yet imbued with a warmth that seemed out of place against the cold backdrop of his demeanor. "I just wanted to spend a moment with my son before I leave." But Mr. Mason was unwavering, his adherence to protocol rigid as steel. "I'm afraid that's quite impossible," he retorted, his tone clipped. "Should you have an appointment, we might consider exceptions, but as it stands—" He allowed the unfinished sentence to hang in the air, trailing like an unspoken warning of the social hierarchies deeply embedded within the school's culture. The staff, playing their part in this orchestrated tableau, stood back with expressions that ranged from discomfort to tacit approval, embodying the institutionalized prejudices that they had learned to navigate. As Sarah turned to leave, the eyes of Langley's elite followed her, some with regret, others with silent judgment. In that moment, Mr. Mason's priorities were laid bare. Status and appearance reigned supreme, and compassion was relegated to obsolescence. The encounter, though fleeting, was a poignant testament to the perils of prejudice and the misplaced values placed on societal veneer, a prelude to the unraveling that was yet to come. The atmosphere inside the modest community center was a stark contrast to the opulence of Langley Preparatory School. Here the walls bore the wear and tear of service, painted with warm hues of care and fellowship. In this unassuming haven, Sarah found solace, her gentle spirit as indispensable as the center's foundational bricks. Despite the bruising indifference she faced at Langley, she returned to her volunteer work, tending to those whose society often overlooked. With deft hands, she sorted donations, her actions harmonizing with the chatter of volunteers and the gratitude of those they served. Sarah's commitment was neither for recognition nor validation. Her efforts stemmed from an intrinsic desire to connect, to make a tangible difference in lives that the world frequently ignored. Her serene resolve was palpable as she navigated the program, weaving bonds in a tapestry of community goodwill. Each smile and word of thanks fortified her, steadying her amidst the whirlwind of the morning's events. This was Sarah's element, where compassion reigned, where true value was measured not in wealth or status, but in kindness and empathy. Meanwhile, in the stately halls of Langley Prep, Matthew sat in the sunlight that streamed through the library window, casting playful patterns on the stone floor. His young face, a picture of concentration, lit up as he received a message from his father, Robert Langley. Despite his frequent travels and demanding affairs, Robert always found time to send his son thoughtful messages, weaving a thread of presence through the fabric of his absences. The missives were simple but imbued with warmth, a testament to the bond that defied distance. Reading his father's words, Matthew felt a swell of affection and longing. Robert had written of his eagerness to see Matthew, of his pride in all that his son was becoming. Prompted by the kindness underpinning the message, Matthew decided to mention the incident with Mr. Mason, narrating it with a child's candid simplicity, unaware of the ripples this recount might set in motion. As the tale reached Robert during a brief respite in his globe-trotting schedule, he paused. The report of his beloved Sarah being treated with condescension was a pebble dropped into the still waters of his composed demeanor. Yet there was more to his reaction than mere indignation. It was an opportunity for introspection, a chance to reconsider the unseen structures and paths his wealth and influence might illuminate, or unknowingly obstruct. Through these moments, a deeper picture emerged. Sarah's quiet resilience and Matthew's innocent transparency converged, weaving strands of empathy and shared humanity between them. Robert's distance, though vast, was peppered with moments of thoughtful presence, hinting at the layers of complexity that often sat unseen beneath the surface of their lives. In this narrative kaleidoscope, the reader glimpsed the unfolding of connections that would inevitably redefine the judgments hastily cast in an esteemed institution bound by tradition and expectation. The usually serene environment of Langley Preparatory School was suddenly alive with a ripple of whispers and curious glances. Robert Langley, the reclusive billionaire and benefactor whose name graced the grand arch above the entrance, had arrived unexpectedly. His presence was rare, akin to a comet illuminating the night sky, disrupting the equilibrium with its sudden brilliance. Today, however, the brilliance carried an undercurrent of purpose, anticipation brewing among the staff and students alike. Mr. Henry Mason, whose pride in maintaining the school's elite reputation often verged on obsession, prepared to greet the school's esteemed benefactor. The headmaster's gait was marked by a self-assuredness born from years of upholding Langley's refined standards, fueling a sense of invincibility, now ever so slightly tinged with trepidation. The reason for Langley's unexpected visit was known to no one, least of all Mr. Mason, whose earlier judgment of Sarah had seemed so inconsequential at the time. As the students gathered in the assembly hall, chattering with excitement, Robert entered with a quiet dignity that commanded immediate attention. His tall frame was accentuated by the confident fluidity of his strides, each step speaking volumes of the silent authority he wielded. His eyes, wise and discerning, scanned the room, pausing on Matthew, who beamed with innocent pride at his father's sudden appearance. When Robert approached the platform, he brought with him an unspoken promise of revelation. Standing before the audience, he spoke, every word weighted with intent, resonating through the cavernous space. "I wanted to take this moment," he began, to recognize some special individuals in our Langley community." Pivoting slightly, his gaze softened as it fell upon Matthew and Sarah, whose modesty diffused through the room like a gentle breeze amid granite statues. "Matthew, my son, embodies the values we cherish: kindness, perseverance, and respect," he continued, pride evident yet seasoned with humility. "And his mother, Sarah, whose contributions to our community extend far beyond these walls, represents the strength and compassion that truly defines greatness." The revelation sent a wave of surprise through the assembly, turning heads and prompting hushed conversations. Despite the warmth of the moment, tension thickened the air as Robert seamlessly shifted focus. His gaze sharpened as it fixated on Mr. Mason, the very embodiment of the exclusivity and condescension Robert had silently decried. "It has come to my attention," Robert's voice now firm, chillingly calm, "that respect has been rationed here, distributed not by merit, but by perception." Mr. Mason, whose veneer of smug superiority had carried him through countless assemblies, felt the weight of Robert's words like a stone dropped into a still pond. His face reddened, a vivid contrast to his crisp attire, as whispers of disbelief and understanding began to ripple through the assembly. In the face of Robert's calm yet penetrating scrutiny, his authority seemed to crumble, leaving behind a vulnerable realization of the deeply entrenched biases he had perpetuated. The confrontation unfolded, less as an outright battle, and more as an inevitable reckoning, an awakening that Robert's pointed anger revealed not as rage, but as a necessity, a call to recalibrate the compass of respect, to recognize worth beyond appearance, beyond circumstance. Here was the narrative peak, an urgent reminder that integrity is not manifested through control or title, but in the acceptance and honor we afford to every individual who graces our path. As the assembly dispersed, the echoes of Robert's message lingered, a lighthouse guiding Langley's future through the turbulent storms of tradition and prejudice. In the wake of Robert Langley's unexpected visit, the grandeur of Langley Prep seemed to echo with a newfound clarity, a ringing reminder of the values the institution ought to uphold. Mr. Henry Mason stood at the center of this transformation, his countenance shadowed with introspection. The edifice of certainty he had constructed over years of rigid governance now appeared fragile, the culmination of one revelatory morning shattering preconceived notions he had seldom questioned. Alone in his office, Mr. Mason surveyed the mahogany expanse of his desk, where documents chronicling years of achievement were neatly arranged, a stark juxtaposition to the disorder in his mind. Robert's words lingered with a persisting resonance, each syllable unearthing the biases that had quietly but insidiously shaped his judgments. In this rare solitude, Mr. Mason's thoughts turned to Sarah and Matthew, a mother and son whose quiet dignity had illuminated the narrow corridors of his understanding. Driven by a burgeoning sense of accountability, Mr. Mason initiated change with a sincerity that was as unfamiliar as it was necessary. The first step, perhaps the hardest, was an apology, both public and private. Before the assembly of students and faculty, Mr. Mason addressed the community, his words measured and deliberate, punctuated by the weight of personal transformation. "It is with humility," he began, his voice steady, "that I acknowledge the oversight rooted not in our standards, but in my personal inadequacies. I extend my sincerest apologies to Sarah and to everyone I have judged unfairly." The apology was a cornerstone, anchoring a newfound ethos that he vowed to foster within Langley's revered walls. To Sarah, whom he met privately at the community center, his words carried an earnestness edged with redemption. "I misjudged you," he admitted, meeting her eyes with genuine contrition. "Your influence on Matthew, and indeed on our community, is invaluable, a profound testament to character, not rank." In this moment of catharsis, the most profound transformation was sparked, not just within Mr. Mason, but throughout the fabric of Langley Prep. Inspired by Robert's example and Mr. Mason's atonement, the school emerged as a living testament to newfound principles. Assemblies, once perfunctory, became vibrant forums celebrating diversity and questioning societal norms. Students engaged in discussions about respect and empathy, guided by teachers who now saw their charge as not just academic, but profoundly humanistic. Sarah's quiet influence rippled outward, her previously unrecognized contributions illuminating pathways for others to follow. Recognition came not from wealth or status, but from the enduring strength of her character, her legacy etched into the evolving narrative of Langley Prep. Robert's words had catalyzed a reformation, but it was Sarah's example that sustained it, intertwining justice with daily life. Thus, as the story closed, it did so on a note not merely of resolution, but of ongoing evolution. Langley Prep, now a beacon, shining not with the glitter of superficial distinction, but with the enduring light of equity and understanding. In this new dawn, justice, respect, and character were the true exemplars, their lessons engraved in the hearts and minds of all who walked its corridors.